Test. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, full commission meeting. Today is September 5th, 2024. Before I call this meeting to order, I want to announce that some commissioners, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom, by phone, or on site. All participants joining by phone, please mute your phones at this time when not speaking to avoid any background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak, so the public that is observing knows exactly who is speaking. Please be sure to speak directly and loudly into a microphone so the public can hear your comments and an accurate record can be made of this meeting by our clerk. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from your Kansas Attorney General's office. If public comments are allowed on the agenda item, comments should be limited to the topic of discussion. Make sure that per the rules of decorum here in these chambers that we abide by those rules of decorum. Disorderly conduct is strictly prohibited. I'll now call this meeting to order. Clerk, roll call, please.
Roll call. Bynum. Here. Burrows.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
Burns. We have an absence memo. Ramirez. We have an absence memo. Hill.
Here.
Kane. Here. Lopez.
Here.
Stites.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Garner.
Here. Thank you, clerk. Tonight, our invocation is going to be given by Chaplain Annie Erickson of the Grandview Park Presbyterian Church. If everyone will please stand, and then immediately after the prayer, we will conduct the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you bow your heads with me, please? Almighty God, we thank you for the beauty of this day and for the lives of everyone here. Thank you for the gifts, the skills, and passion you have endowed each person in this room. We ask for wisdom, guidance, and a spirit of camaraderie in this meeting tonight. Grant Mayor Garner, the commissioners, the county administrator, and all who speak wisdom and understanding of the issues that need to be discussed. Bless them with a spirit of humility and a posture of learning, that they may find creative solutions and positive means to serve the people of Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Chaplain. If I would, I'd just ask everyone to, we're going to take a quick moment of silence for past Kansas City, Kansas Councilman Chester Owens and State Representative Marvin Robinson. We just take a moment of silence. Thank you. Please keep their family and loved ones in thought and any continuous prayers. Clerk, were there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
Mayor, there are no revisions.
Okay, that takes us to the mayor's agenda. Clerk, I believe there's some proclamations. Could you go through those?
Yes. Proclamation proclaiming August sixth, 2024 as National Night Out Day. Proclamation proclaiming August 4 through 9, 2024 as Community Care Clinics Week. A proclamation proclaiming August 25th, 2024 as Moms, MOMS Tour Day. Proclamation proclaiming September 14th, 2024 as MWGM Day. Proclamation proclaiming September 20th, 24 as POW MIA Recognition Day. Proclamation proclaiming September 28th, 2024 as Good Neighbor Day. Proclamation proclaiming September 30th, 2024 as 106th NAACP Kansas City, Kansas Branch Day. And proclamation proclaiming September 15th through October 15th, 2024 as Hispanic Heritage Month.
Thank you, Clerk. That takes us to our next item on the agenda. Last week, we heard from the BPU Board Chairman as well as the General Manager on some of the things that BPU is doing to serve our community. As we continue this discussion, it's no secret that many of us, and I'll speak for myself, as I go throughout this community, and I'm out here pretty much every day talking to people, the biggest concerns consistently that have come to me have been number one, property taxes, which I believe this body is working with staff to try and address, to put a pressure point on that issue. And with revenue neutral being passed and moving forward from that, BPU is one of those issues where people have asked this mayor to make it a intentional topic for conversation. Some of the ideas that were floated to me were to sell BPU in whole or in part. I can say for the record that that's not something that I support or endorse because we have a strong and powerful asset in having our own public utility here in Kansas City, Kansas. I believe that was pointed out, the value, listening to General Manager Johnson during his presentation, the value that BPU can bring to a community. But the biggest question is the BPU, the Board of Public Utilities here in Kansas City, Kansas, a benefit or a burden? That's the question in some minds, whether it's real or perception, and that remains to be seen, is that a lot of people believe that it is a burden financially, be it in fees, questions about customer service, or the actual rates, and things of that nature. A lot to explore there. Ultimately, the BPU is a unified government. The unified government is BPU. This is the governing body, essentially, that oversees, is the fiduciary and the managing body that ultimately has complete authority over BPU. I do think it's appropriate that after 27 years that we do take a hard look at the Board of Public Utilities and see how we can address some of these issues in whole or in part again, hopefully collectively with the Board of Public Utilities elected body, their staff, or this commission may choose to explore their options. But the overriding goal is how do we bring about enhanced service and reduce costs, and making sure that this publicly owned utility has some type of benefit for the residents of Kansas City, Kansas, that can truly be realized in a way that can dispel those perceptions that has become a burden. And so tonight's presentation will explore an option that this commission can again look at. The reason for this is I want to have this commission get all the information they need to hopefully make an informed decision on options they may have to continue this conversation moving forward on behalf of our residents that, again, have been demanding some type of relief when you talk about taxes and user fees and BPU. Those still remain, again, the biggest issues here in Kansas City, Kansas. And so tonight, Mr. Chris Steineger, past senator here in Wyandotte County for the great state of Kansas, is going to come forward, and he's going to give a presentation that hopefully can add some options and at least open the door to this conversation. And you got to remember, his information is not definitive. His presentation is merely a gateway and a bridge to hopefully continue this conversation that was started last week by the BPU General Manager and the Board Chair, Mr. Groneman. So if you would, Mr. Chris Steineger, come forward, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Commissioners. You should have, Commissioners, I think 2 or 3 page, essentially it's PowerPoint. It's also up on the screens there for the audience. Hope to run through this. I'm going to try and do it in about 15 minutes. But this doesn't exactly have a conclusion. It's just more of a suggestion in the end, is that you at least explore your options. That's the 30-second conclusion. If you want to leave now, that's my main conclusion: explore your options. So number one is the methodology. How did we come up with this cost savings study? And myself, I was in the state Senate for 16 years. I served on the budget committee of the state, the Ways and Means Committee. It's was at that time a $17 billion budget, so substantially larger. And I also served, more importantly, I served on the post-audit committee. I did that for 16 years along with Representative Tom Burrows. And post-audit is a performance auditing committee. It's managed or controlled by the House and the Senate members together. They're highly trained performance auditors, not so much financial auditors, but they're trained in doing performance audits of government agencies and government programs to see if these programs or agencies are meeting their goals, yes or no. And so I learned pretty well how to do performance audits on government agencies and programs. And that was my methodology here. I did work with, this is about a 1.5 year old data, and I'll get to that. But when I was working for the mayor, 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I met with your budget director, Reggie Lindsay. We met in his offices and he assigned a couple staffers to help put this together. And the basic way we got our data was right out of your own budgets. We didn't make stuff up or take it off the web. We took the BPU budget right here. And their budget, by the way, being smaller, has a lot more line items, a lot more detail than your budget, which is, you know, twice as big, a lot more departments. But we took the two budgets and laid them side by side on a great big table and went through them line by line and identified about 13 departments and or functions of government that are duplicated. And I want to repeat that because this is key information. We identified about 13 departments and or functions of local government that are duplicated. And duplicated means the UG is paying for it and so is the BPU. You know, a bit of background, when we were all a lot younger, I got active in the consolidation movement the first time. Consolidation idea, I think, was first studied here in 1968. There was a very early study done, another one done in the 80s. And then the big definitive one was in about 1993 or 94. The KCK chamber did what they called the revenue study, and was kind of a precursor to the idea of merging the city and county and BPU all at that time. And that study led to a state law being passed to create the Wyandotte County Study Commission. It's very unprecedented in our state that the state government passed a law that said you will have a study commission and we're going to pay for it. And the state did hire an executive director. I think it was a retired lieutenant colonel out of Fort Leavenworth. And there were 5 members appointed. I think they were appointed by the governor at the time. And they studied this idea for about a year or so. The state law also mandated that whatever plan they come up with shall go directly to a vote of the people. There was no county commission being involved. The plan went directly to the vote of the people. And that happened in April of 97. And I was a big supporter of it at the time. And we voted it in. I dug up this old photo. I thought there was one with Melissa Bynum in there, but this is one this is from the Kansan, early 1997 when we opened the Consolidation Yes headquarters. And you've got myself and Nick Tomasic and Reverend Bynum, Reverend Bacchus and Carol Marinovich and 3 city commissioners and J.J. Swanson all standing here cutting the ribbon. So I personally have a lot of history with the consolidation movement, and I still believe it's has potential for us. So when a bit more on the methodology, again, the BPU budget is a bit simpler because it's essentially, BPU has a lot of departments, but they basically have 2 products. They make electricity and they make water. They make electricity and distribute it, and make water and distribute it. The UG is a much more complex animal because you've got a police function, a fire department function, public works. Public works itself is a very diverse agency. You've got planning and zoning. So your organization here is a much more complex thing to analyze. And that's one reason the budget is a lot thicker. You have a lot more departments, a lot more line items. But the BPUs, thank goodness, is very specific in their line items. So if you want to look up the general manager's salary, not just his salary, but benefits, his office costs, his other items that are spent through his office, you can look those up. If you want to look up David Johnson's, it's a bit harder. Y'all's are a bit more buried. But what we did is we put together a database. Reggie Lindsay assigned a couple staffers to help, and they were straight out of the budget department, so they're better at this than I am. And we went through and identified, this is my raw data, but the green is the UG, the blue is the BPU. And so we would put, the HR department and the HR department, the IT and information technology, purchasing and purchasing, so forth and so on. And we lined up these agencies or departments between BPU and UG and looked at and just literally plugged in the dollar values that were spent for each of those. And that's where we got all, so the data is right out of your budgets. There's no exaggeration. There's no, anything like that. It's right out of y'all's budgets from, I think, 2023. Yeah. 2023 at that time was the most, so it's 2-year-old data now. But that was our methodology and that was who was involved. It was your own staff. I just helped kind of manage the thing along. So moving on, a bit more on the history of consolidation. Again, this took place in 97, but that study commission that was appointed, the 5 members, they had meetings all over the city. And for a long, long time, the whole idea was to consolidate fully the city, the county, and the BPU. The city, county, BPU. That was the entire plan. And In those days, the city government, the county government fought like cats and dogs. And this issue, this consolidation was thought of as a city government taking over the county. And the county commissioners didn't like it. And so they fought against this thing. And it became a continuation of the kind of the Hatfield and McCoys. And at that time, the three big voting blocks in the community were the city employees, the county employees, and the BPU employees, and then everybody else. And the pro-consolidation people thought, well, if the county employees are all going to vote no, the city employees will all vote yes. If the BPU employees vote no, we'll lose this issue on the ballot. And so BPU got left out as a political consideration. And the idea is that we'll look at that later, like maybe 2 or 3 years down the road. Well, 27 years later, it never got looked at. So the issue did pass in April 97. I think the 57% in favor, 43% opposed, but we passed consolidation at that time. So who owns the BPU? The BPU is a department of the city of Kansas City, Kansas. Technically, it's not the UG. Remember, the UG is the county and the city put together, but the BPU is a fully owned subsidiary of the city of Kansas City, Kansas, the same as the Public Works Department or the fire department or any other department. You own them. And all of their property is supposed to be held in UG title. If you look on the county property map, you can find any BPU property and it'll say either KCK or Unified Government as the property owner. It doesn't say BPU. As I understand it, all BPU debt, or at least some or all the BPU debt, you guys, they vote for it, but then you have to vote to allow them to issue debt. So I just want to emphasize that the BPU is owned 100% lock, stock, and barrel by the city of Kansas City, Kansas. No ifs, ands, or buts. I would also point out your legal counsel also provides legal services to the BPU. So it's just one more way there's clear and convincing that this is not a separate entity. It's your entity. You guys own it. So we did our study. It took us 3 or 4 months. I have to give a lot of credit to Elaine Herr. She worked for Reggie Lindsay. Now she's, I think, in your finance department, but she put a lot of effort into this. So did Reggie, another gentleman who I think has moved on, maybe passed on. But again, we came up with this line by line comparison of the duplicated departments. And it adds up to roughly $22 million a year of duplicated expenses. And it's about 2 years old, so you could probably round that up 3 or 4% because people have gotten raises. With the UG and the BPU, roughly 85% of your budget is employee compensation. I'm sure the administrator could fine tune me or your CFO could fine tune that. But if you add up paychecks, health insurance, and CAPER's contribution, I think about 85%-ish of your budget is employee compensation. And so the same, it's not that far up with the BPU. They're also, a large majority of the budget is for employee compensation. So with this study, we only looked at the employees. We didn't look at other intangibles. And we came up with about 22 million a year in potential savings. If you don't have so many duplicated employees, you don't need as much office space. And right now, this building has quite a bit of empty space in it, and you're leasing property elsewhere for other offices that are far flung around the county. It didn't used to be that way. I used to work at City Hall back in the early 90s, a minor aside. I had also completed my master's degree in public administration from the University of Kansas, and I went to work for the city administrator in a one-year internship when David Isabel was the manager, and we had a 6-member commission. So I have a bit of background with the city as well. And in those days, there were almost no other lease space. Everybody worked here. All the departments were, other than police. I think even the police department was in the basement. Fire department had the separate building, but everyone else was in here. And today you've got a partially empty building and you're renting space all over the place. And I'm saying if you would do this consolidation and eliminate duplicated positions, you're going to have a lot of extra buildings that can be sold or done something with. You don't have to maintain them. You don't have to provide janitorial. You don't have to pay for the electric or water and all these other buildings that we don't really need. My study only looks at savings of personnel. It doesn't even consider what you might save by not having extra buildings. Another one would be fleets. You guys have a fleet. You have a fleet facility out at 50th and State with a lot of dump trucks and backhoes and pickup trucks. Well, the BPU also has a fleet facility out there on basically 67th and Riverview. And it's a very large facility and they have dump trucks, backhoes, and pickup trucks. And I would point out BPU maintains the fresh water pipes under the street with their backhoes. You guys through WBC maintain the dirty water pipes that are under the street. Either way, they're dump trucks and backhoes, and the dump trucks and backhoes don't really know if they're digging up a clean water pipe or a dirty water pipe, but it's an example of duplication. You got two different sets of employees, both using dump trucks and backhoes to dig up pipes that are buried under the ground. And all those pipes are owned by the city of Kansas City, Kansas. Why do you have two fleets of people, two fleets of trucks? You don't need to. We don't need to. That's just a particular, I would use the word egregious example of some of the duplication. But again, it's HR, IT, fleets, fleet maintenance, fleet dispatch. Those are the bigger ones. You can narrow it down all the way. We have two administrators. We got Bill Johnson and David here. So why do we have two administrators? You have another duplication. We're paying for 10 commissioners and a mayor, where we're paying for 5 or 6 board members over the BPU. You know, the salaries, I agree, the salaries aren't very big, but they're a cost. But you also have a couple of secretaries, that secretary for commissioners, the mayor's got a staff, so does the BPU board. So those are smaller savings. There's a whole range of savings from very large to very small, and they're all duplicated. And I just got to remind you, you know, it's not about saving the UG, it's about, this is people's money. The most recent census showed us about 168,000 people. 2% of those work at the UG of the BPU, and that means 98% of us don't work here and don't benefit from this. We're paying, the 98% are paying for the 2%. And I don't see that as fair at all. I don't see any kind of system where 98 or 99% pay for so that 1% can live well. That's never fair. Doesn't matter your politics. So I would just point out that I think there's a lot of savings to be accomplished here. Heading towards conclusion, I would just say, keep your options open. You don't have to, I'm not suggesting sell today. I am suggesting that you look into this and find out a little bit more about the legalities and the debt, and, you know, a bit more about what kind of office buildings do we all own? I know your own John Kelly had a major study done 2 or 3 years ago of how much property the UG owns. I don't know if it includes the BPU or not, but I would just urge you all to look a little farther into this and see what's possible. I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Steineger.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Appreciate you.
Hopefully I got done in less than 15 minutes. Go Chiefs.
Well, I think from the presentation, I think the takeaway is that the recommendation is that we explore opportunities that could potentially save our residents money. The biggest takeaway that Mr. Steineger presented was he was part of the consolidation effort. And as part of that conversation, consolidation of BPU was postponed. And so here we are, about 27 years later, and looking at ways that maybe we can consolidate to fully accomplish the goals and the theory behind why consolidation happened in the first place, which is to save our residents money. BPU is a non-for-profit, unlike some of its competitors, but the competitors, some of them have stockholders. The equivalent of those stockholders are our residents. And I believe that what I'm hearing from a lot of residents all over Kansas City, Kansas, is they would like to see more of a return from the entity that they own, which is the publicly owned utility called the Board of Public Utilities. There have been questions raised about customer service, connection fees, a lot of user fees, the rates, amongst other items, and the duplication of services that you just heard, the potential that is there. So I believe that it does deserve further inquiry to at least see if there can be some cost savings for our residents to address some of the issues they may have when you talk about, I believe there's about 3 years of 18% rate increases. I just from BPU. I'm looking at a potential of millions of dollars of potential cost savings that could be found just looking at personnel costs and the duplication that may be there. I don't know. But I think when you hear those kind of numbers, I think it behooves us to at least have that looked into and analyzed and that information brought back before this body to see if there's any savings that can be realized for the unified government, but more importantly for our residents. So with that said, we heard from the BPU board chair, Mr. Groneman, the BPU board general manager, Mr. Bill Johnson. We've heard from Chris Steineger, who has given a presentation of options that can hopefully start a conversation to at least explore cost savings to our residents. And now this is an opportunity for us to hear from our residents, to hear their concerns, their ideas, their recommendations to this commission with the ultimate goal of continue this conversation beyond this with the BPU board, with their general manager. And hopefully my recommendation to this body is that we at some point have an executive session after this conversation has been completed to explore all our options and make a decision that hopefully will be of value to our residents, and then we can move forward. So, clerk, I believe we had individuals that wanted to make some comments.
Mayor, do you want to take written comment first?
Yes.
Clerk's office did not receive any written comment. However, I do believe that a commissioner did and wanted to read that.
Thank you. I would like to thank my friend, this is from Rose Mulvaney, a BPU board member. I would like to thank my friend and colleague Commissioner Kane for reading this statement on my behalf in my absence this evening. The idea to consolidate the BPU into the unified government or sell the BPU are not new. In fact, these ideas are very familiar from former State Senator Steineger, who has lobbied for these outcomes for years. For over 100 years, BPU has provided reliable electric service and clean water to residents of Kansas City, Kansas, and has done with its emphasis on the community and local oversight of the community. Last night, we were discussing the revisions to the BPU customer service policies, which several board members and BPU staff had worked through nearly a year. I was thinking about all the input we received from the members of the public and our bi-weekly meetings during that time. Input that we tried to incorporate into a better policy for BPU customers. This only happens when a dedicated staff of BPU staff and board to address these needs in an issue that are unique to the utilities, and it would never happen if the BPU were sold to investors in its own utility. While I appreciate the effort to identify potential synergies in local government that lead to the more efficiencies and cost savings, something I support as a resident taxpayer and BPU board member in KC. Based on the presentation this evening, it appears to me there was no input sought from the UG commissioners regarding the recommendation nor collaboration with the BPU management or staff. These commissioners literally represent the residents of the community, and no input was sought from them prior to the presentation. Why is an issue of the magnitude of our community be reviewed in a vacuum and recommendations made without our input from the elected representatives? As both bodies have stated many times, policies over the last year, both the UG commissioners and BPU board members would welcome the opportunity for our elected representatives to work together to problem solve issues that affect our community and our residents. If the people of KC want a thorough analysis on the consolidation of BPU into the unified government, then that analysis should only be moved forward in light of day with collaboration between the UG customers and the BPU board members. Thank you, Rose Mulvaney.
Thank you, Commissioner. Clerk.
We have individuals in chambers who've signed up to speak. First speaker is Ken Snyder. Pamela Penn Hicks is on deck. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and residence.
Good evening. My name is Ken Snyder. A very wise man once said, Those who cannot be trusted with small things should not be trusted with things that matter. I have my own personal story at BPU, and I tell you, if you want to talk about corruption, you want to talk about cronyism, you want to talk about favoritism, I can give it to you. BPU hired someone to be the final say in hiring and firing decisions, knowing full well that individual had a federal court judgment against him for employment discrimination. How does that sound? Would you, as a board, hire somebody knowing that they're going to make that final decision and they have a history of this? Not only did that board over there hire him in secret, I might add, they also retained him and gave him the most ridiculous salary increase in the history of Wyandotte County. You want your proof? There's your proof. So the thought is, let's consolidate. Let's bring all this in. So that means that what BPU has been for many years is the collection agency for the UG. You don't pay your trash fee, you don't pay your water, your sewer fee, we shut your power off. So if we bring them into the UG, there's no change. It's the same thing all over again. You don't like your terrible trash service? You don't like the fact that they won't pick up your recycling on a regular basis? Water and power off. By the way, if anybody is doubting this whole thing about this whole federal court judgment, let me know. I can show you. It's real. So the other thing is about, oh, well, we can consolidate. Okay. From what I've heard from recent posts on both sides of the aisle,
1 minute remaining.
the UG isn't that much better. I've heard all the infighting going on between the commissioners, with each other, between the commissioners and the mayor commissioners. So I think the best solution would be to just take a good hard look at both sides, both here on 7th Street and over there on Minnesota Avenue. Start from the top down. Hand out a lot of pink slips. You want to save some money? I'm good for that.
Our next speaker is Pamela Penn Hicks. Jill Coates on deck.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Pamela Penn Hicks, Wyandotte County. I'm going to ask up front for a little extra time because this situation is serious enough for all of us to hear out the community. And plus, most people are at the game anyway, so we get a little extra time. I would appreciate that, 1 or 2 minutes.
We'll play that by you. Just proceed, Ms.
Okay,
Hicks.
thank you. I am not a fan of either the BPU nor the UG. Both entities have demonstrated a disdain towards the public through mismanagement, corruption, and top-down administration, which has led to policies that do not always serve the public interest. This is reflected in the nepotism and cronyism in hiring practices and contracting, excessive administrative pay scales, low productivity, and outputs by employees, excessive reliance on abatements and corporate giveaways, which has, among other things, resulted in a high tax burden and high utility rates for a municipality populated by mostly moderate and lower middle class. Neither has served the public interest well. In recent years, it has become evident that our current governmental structure needs an overhaul. Many disturbing financial issues have come to light. However, in response to those issues, our government and BPU have responded by increasing their own salaries, employee salaries, and continuing to avoid acknowledging their role in the fiscal mismanagement of our city and county. Instead, it has been business as usual. The reaction to the community's request for revenue neutral and relief from the unlawful pilot has led to this chess game, with the people once again playing the role of pawns. This presentation tonight illustrates once again your disdain for your constituents, their intellectual and financial capacity. Starting with your presenter, Mr. Steineger, who has publicly stated both his desire to privatize public utilities and his animosity toward BPU autonomy and lack of regulatory oversight, is involved in this move to absorb this agency into UG administrative control.
1 minute
This
remaining.
report reflects his positions. He states that the study was solely conducted in-house without BPU input nor public disclosure except for referencing the unification process when BPU was feared to impede the move to consolidate. In this report, it states BPU is a wholly owned subsidiary of KCK. The BPU has been consistently referred to as an agency of UG, with a publicly elected board, which is unlike a department like Public Works, etc. While the land and buildings are under title, the UG enjoys a total abatement of water and electric charges from the BPU and receives the pilot fee. The fact that all legal counsel for the BPU comes from the UG Legal Department highlights recent revelations that show that the legal department has not served either entity well. In regard to financial savings for the UG, well, that section is a whole bag of tricks.
Your time has
When the
expired.
community asked to follow up on the audit and gave County Administrator Johnston time to do his job, we got no layoffs and a 3% salary increase. When the community asked for revenue neutral, after record-setting property value increases and utility rate increases, we got budget cuts that mainly affect two groups: those that historically have not received equitable distribution of services and those that are most vulnerable in our community. Once again, pawns on the chessboard. When the community questioned fees charged by the UG and asked to separate them from their BPU bill to better afford their utilities, we got more disdain from our government. Charging ratepayers for the collection of the pilot, which should have been advised against, rather than as a direct payment from BPU, the agency, to the UG, the municipal government. This move has resulted in BPU serving as both collection agency and enforcement arm for the UG in billing and ensuring the payment of said fees. The UG spent the money without hesitation or regard for authorization. This estimate of savings does not reflect how the UG intends to provide real benefit to the community, considering the dysfunctional system that is the UG. It has been acknowledged by the county administrator that significant improvements need to be made and soon. The most significant contribution this presentation makes is number 7. If sold to a private company, there will be no tax abatement. Ultimately, the community utility could become investor-owned, and the community's utilities were controlled by shareholders without any guarantee that our rates would stabilize because profit becomes the primary factor, ROI, return on investment. This harkens back to Mr. Steineger's public declarations. This admittedly simplistic performance audit leads me to encourage there be no authoritarian move on this matter. The difference between a wholly owned subsidiary and an agency is, and I quote, "A wholly owned subsidiary can make decisions quickly and easily because it has only one owner, while a municipal agency must make decisions that serve the public's interest." That reflects how the BPU has been consistently characterized over the years. It also reflects another observation that this move can be useful to local governments wanting to hide their liabilities by corporatizing your utilities to create new streams of revenue. I strongly disagree with the recommendation based upon all of the above and Mr. Johnson's recent independent actions that have not reflected well on his judgment. I ask on behalf of all of us affected that a complete independent audit of both entities and a review of consolidating BPU into the UG be conducted. The best interest of the people is your sworn duty. The people need to be included in the review, be able to trust the review, and act on their own behalf when something of this magnitude is before the board. I thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Jill Coates. Lisa Yeager on deck.
Good evening. This is my first time doing something like this. So anyway, my name is Jill Coates. I live in.
Ms. Coates, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Before you, just give us 1 second. Commissioner Townsend's question. I didn't want to lose her. I didn't want her to lose her chain of thought. So
Thank you.
Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mary. And I didn't want to interrupt our last speaker, Ms. Penn Hicks. But in fairness to everyone and who may speak, everybody knows it's 3 minutes. So if people request more than that, I'm asking that there be a vote here to approve it up and down so that everyone is treated fairly and equally. Thank you.
If people want more time, I'll allow that. That's, as the presiding officer, I will allow that.
With a limit so that everybody knows how much additional more time they
No
have,
more-
additional 3
Yes,
minutes.
no more than 2 more minutes if you
Okay.
need it, so.
Thank you.
Again, my name is Jill Coates from Kansas City, Kansas. I just wanted to present to you all sorry. I've been an HR manager and a business manager for over 15 years, and I just don't see the need for consolidation of the BPU and the UG. Consolidation is not always best. Reducing headcount is not necessarily the way to go, but to look at the processes of each organization and focusing on better processes and doing the work. BPU was created to be a benefit to the residents of KCK. That's my understanding, and I think it has done that in its rates. I know there's been a lot of people, or there have been people that are disgruntled with the rates, but the Kansas Corporate Commission in a report in, I forget, 2020, basically reported that municipals actually have the lowest kilowatt per hour. They have better rates than the investor-owned utilities, the non-IOUs, and the co-ops. And BPU has kept those rates down. As a resident, the KCC report in 2019 reported 12.67 cents per kilowatt hour. As a resident in 2019 of BPU, it was 11.08 cents per kilowatt hour. So even better than the reported rate. Again, just BPU rates in 2019 definitely were lower than the average Kansas residential rate, saving our residents money if we would go any other route. In 2024, my electric rate is now 12.05 cents. Not
1
much of an
minute
increase.
remaining.
But, you know, again, compared to an investor-owned company in Liberty, Missouri, where my son lives, he is paying 20 cents per kilowatt hour. So I think a change in BPU with the rates, they're doing a good job in keeping the rates down. I don't believe that consolidation is where we want to go. I question the 85% personnel budget being, or the personnel being 85% of the budget when there's coal and oil and fuel and equipment that it has to cost more than just 15% of your budget to maintain water and electricity in BPU. Now, maybe combined with the UG, I don't know where all the expenses are on the UG side, but again, I firmly believe that consolidation is not the answer, and I thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Lisa Yeager.
Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Walker Yeager. I like to ditto everything that Pamela Hicks stated. One of the key things is, Mr. Steineger, thank you. Thank you very much. This is not the first audit that we had. The last audit that the mayor had, and it came out with a lot of results. And one of the results was a lot of money was misspent. but nothing happened from it. So my question is here. We said, like, when we talked about the pilot, I was the one that went into detail about the pilot. The attorney stood up and stated, oh, the pilot was legal and it was acceptable. Then I went on to read the definition of what the pilot tax was. You all's attorney stood up and went against everything that the community has been complaining about. Now, if we're removing the pilot, you've added on stormwater fees and other fees. The utility tax the utility itself is not bad. It's the other fees that are added onto the pilot. My house was in a bad storm. And I haven't had lights in a couple of months and just had the utilities put on while I was having knee surgery. So with that being said, my bill is still $143, but my utility bill is $35, along with a small water fee. You cannot charge us all these fees.
1 minute
This is
remaining.
ridiculous. Do not have utilities on, but I'm still being charged an astronomical amount. And with that being said, you guys have got to look at something different. You cannot continue to be on the board here, control everything that's going on here, have them have a board there, and have them control everything. And it's not really community looked at. So I don't know where the answer would be, but I do know that what Steineger came out with, I looked at, that was $42 million. That was Miss Perhaps that he talked about. And that was from all the duplicity, shall I say, the duplicity. And the duplicity is really real.
Your time has expired.
So my key thing and my focus is, you all were voted in. You, Mr. Davis, you, Ms. Hill, Melissa Bynum, you were voted in. Everybody was voted in. Burroughs, Kane, Stites, Townsend, you all were voted in for us to make a difference, to assist us, to listen to what we have to say. And make your decision based off of what the community is stating. Because we are the ones that's having to pay the bills, where you're writing it off for all the large corporations. I call it corporate welfare. And I think that we need to relook at how we're going to handle this. Because if you ain't handled what the first audit, I don't see that you're going to be able to handle what Mr. Steineger just came up with. And I'd like to see that handled as well. Thank you.
Mayor, we have no other individuals that signed in.
Before I close the public comment, would there anyone else like to speak? Okay, just if you would sit in the front and one by one and state your name and your residence, city of origin.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Mike Urich. I'm a Wyandotte County resident. Listening to Mr. Steineger's presentation and considering everything that we have going on in Wyandotte County, I'm always open to consolidation and saving money, especially when it comes to my taxes and my utility rates. But I'm not confident that this board, the Board of Commissioners here, could take over the responsibilities of the Board of Commissioners at BPU, for one thing. The other side of that is and no disrespect, but you guys are busy enough with what's going on. The other thing that Mr. Steineger mentioned was consolidating different departments. I'm not sure what good it does to look at consolidating compartments, if you're just moving employees from one place to another. We're still spending the same amount of money. If you got 20 backhoes to do water leak repairs for BPU and you got 10 to do sewer repairs for the county or the UG, you're still going to need that amount of backhoes. So I'm not sure where this consolidation thing is even beneficial or how we can even think of it at this point in time till we can get a functional, I guess, model of how that would actually work. But honestly, as a citizen, a ratepayer and a taxpayer, this is like moot to me. So I don't even know. I understand we're looking for ways to save money. I do understand that, but it's like, I think we need to throw a little more before we get in the race. Thank you.
My name is Myra Romero Furman, and I'm a proud resident of Wyandotte County in Kansas City, Kansas. First, I want to thank each of you for your service. And neighbors, heads up, next week is UG Appreciation Week. So if any of you have had someone who has helped you, a commissioner, a police officer, or even a BPU employee, please just take a second to thank them, because this is not easy. I will push back and thank the BPU staff because they did cease to turn off utilities when it's cold. We do have to give them credit for that. Similarly, the customer service staff tends to be pretty short because they're having so many calls. They are kind every other month when my utilities get turned off because I can't afford them, especially when I call to reconnect the bare minimum that it'll take to get me to the next month. I also want to push back on the 2% of the county that works at the UG living large. They do not live large. They are responsible as they can with their finances, but sometimes it does take a different set of eyes. So this is for consultants. You guys can help us save money too. It shouldn't take whatever contract amount it's taking for two budgets to be looked at side by side and find that 13 departments overlap. I could do that, and I barely graduated high school. Mayor G, also props for returning the Denali. We are also grateful for that through today. I haven't asked for the commission today, and for you, Mayor. BPU, we know that contracts waste management services to pick up the large items. That is kind of one of those perks that we have here in the county. I don't know about y'all, but no one knows about this service. It is very rare that a resident actually understands that they will take mattresses, couches, all sorts of large items. So I'm going to ask the communication staff to please come up with a graphic, because I would like to devote some of my time, and hopefully community policing will be able to help as well, in taking time and just walking these neighborhoods. If we see a house that has stuff all outside, you know those people are just like us. There's no difference. Everyone wants to have a clean home. Sometimes people just don't realize that the resource is sitting right in front of them. And if we are paying for them and we are trying to work towards government efficiency, I think that's a great way to do that first, and then hopefully come back to BPU later, look at that waste management contract and see if it's actually being efficient or not. Because right now, if my father of 26 years in Wyandotte County had no idea, living both off 18th and Central and now in Piper, I think that screams a hot button issue. None of the moms on the soccer team knew that this was actually available either.
1 minute remaining.
I would like to do this on a volunteer basis, and I'm going to go ahead and encourage that everyone actually step up to the plate. Mayor G asked us about 2 months ago or so. It's going to take all of us. If we want to have the UG actually save money, that's going to take some of us just stepping up and, hey, going over to a neighbor and asking if they need help for dumpster days. So please, neighbors, don't forget that we are a community, and I am here trying to unify the Wyandotte County unified government to residents, because it's the only way that our quality of life is actually going to improve. And really quickly, I've been present in the last couple of meetings and participating kind of without lots of preparation. And I'm sure you guys can tell that because I'm typically very nervous and speaking quickly. So this call is actually to all of us neighbors. If you guys really, really want to change this, come apply to work for the unified government. You do not need a high school diploma for some jobs. You do need a high school diploma or GED for others. But you know what it's going to take? It's going to take less consultants and more outside eyes to actually come to these departments and say, hey, you don't need to print that out 72 times. It's those easy steps that we as poor people can do really well because we've learned to manage our money to the last cent. And
Your
last,
time has expired.
really quickly, le quiero decir a la gente hispana, lo que veo aquí es que no hay ni un hispano aparte de mí. 1, 2, 3, Pescadillo. Así que si ustedes tienen algo que decirle al condado, ellos quieren oír de ustedes también. Así que por favor vengan. Ellos tienen traductores. Yo voy a estar aquí disponible también. Pero me duele en el corazón ver que nuestra raza es el centro de comercio en el condado de Wyandotte y solo hay 3 de nosotros aquí. So, por favor vengan. Los queremos y ustedes son nuestros vecinos también. Gracias.
I had every hope that I would get to sit this out. Good evening, Commissioners. How are you all doing? My name is Fannie Hill, and I hate coming up here speaking because I'm never speaking what I want to speak, and I'm not speaking of myself. But I've been up here speaking what the Lord would have me speak. If you're not listening to him, you're not going to listen to me. So I don't have anything to say to you about what to do because I don't know what to do. I admit it, and neither do you. And until you realize you don't know what to do and ask somebody who knows. He's up there. He's waiting on you to submit, to ask. He wants to see us prosper, all of us do better. But we gotta ask how to do it. We don't want to admit that we don't know. So I'm not gonna tell you what to do about the BPU because if I did, you know what I would say? Sell it and let it make a profit. But I'm not telling you that because I don't know if that's the answer. Probably not. So I'm not telling you that, but I am praying and I am asking. I'm up here to tell you about the BPU. I am a property owner in Missouri and Kansas. And I mean, for the last 3-4 months, I've been paying $1,000 a month. And I have about $1,500 worth of BPU bills. They say we have a hardship. I lost family members and I had family come in. I expected the bill to be a little bit higher, but the bill went from $200 to $619. I thought, whoa. She said, well, you know, you can go through the hardship program. I said, I don't fool with stuff like that because I'm human, just like you. When I start trying to get that money to help pay these bills, I might tell what I call a little white lie and all lies are black. So I don't fool with that. I said, I'll pay my bill, no matter what they are, because God's going to make sure my meal bag never run dry. Look, I'm asking you all to listen. Listen. Somebody who's praying, somebody who's seeking God for answers, he's going to speak. But you need to just listen. You need to just realize we don't know what to do, people. We're in a situation. We don't know what to do. And he's been talking for over 1.5 years, and we have turned a deaf ear. So I don't have anything for him to say to you. Nothing.
1 minute remaining.
Nothing to say. When he stops talking, if you don't have sense enough to be afraid, I'm afraid for you because that means he's going to start acting. Follow me on my Facebook page. I put a post out there and I tell people, that's people when I post, read it. Some people say it's too long. If it's too long, it's not for you because it's going to help who it's for. When I post, people read it. Community, read it. I said it's better to be asked up than to be asked down. If God asks you to move, people, I'm begging you, move. It's better to move than to be removed. You don't know how he's going to move you. Follow me on my Facebook page, Fannie Hill. I tell people I'm a minister and that's all I do is minister. You won't find foolishness on my page. I hear people say, oh, they follow me. That's not right. I wish you would follow me and hear what God is saying to us as a community, not just you, but to us out here too, to this entire community. Because like I said, there's a spiritual movement happening in this city, one of the greatest movements since the Pentecostal movement in Topeka, Kansas, and we need to get on board and listen. So just follow me on my page. I don't think I'll be coming up anymore. I pray I don't have to. I come up and move when he tells me, and I had hope that I would get to just sit it out. That was my plan. I don't like coming up here. Somebody said, they didn't care about you preaching. I said, I don't care about preaching to them. Do you really think this is fun for me? Are you kidding me?
Your time.
I tell you what, if you want to pray for you, pray for me.
My name is CeCe Harlan and I live here in Wyandotte County. So I feel BPU could be a benefit to the community if the UG and BPU leaders make sure that they apply the rules and the standards that they claim to have as a municipal utility here in Wyandotte County. For years, the UG has denied ownership basically, because every time you had an issue with the BPU, you call over here, you'll say they're their own separate entity when y'all knew all along that you were the responsible party for the poor behavior of the general managers and their boards and the boards. But then I started watching and listening and paying more attention. And I noticed that there's nepotism, favoritism, and corruption woven into the very fabric of our unified government and its extended arms. You have a law firm who has been with you for more than 100 years. And now they're on every single board that you all have, USD 500. The same lawyer that I seen the BPU is here tonight on this board. And I watched her take a poll of which one of the board members were coming. I feel like that is a conflict of interest because the attorneys that sit on that board and on this board are supposed to represent the people's best interests, not the unified government, not the BPU, not the school board, but the people. And they're not doing that, and they have not been doing that. Up until the early 2000s, there was a separate or independent lawyer because there were lawsuits happening against BPU, against the state, against the UG. But under the discretion of your current law firm, they said that they should cover all boards, and nobody was there to protect us. And that's because you keep on getting poor advice from a law firm who told you to put on the pilot fee illegally. All the lawsuits that y'all have settled recently, poor legal advice. When are y'all gonna change that? Because maybe then y'all can make better decisions.
1 minute remaining.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else? All right, well, thank you. Clerk, is there anyone online?
Yes, Mayor, there's a hand raised online.
Okay,
First hand raised is Louise Lynch. You'll need to unmute, state your name and residence. You'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Louise Lynch, Wyandotte County. I wish I could have been there in person, but unfortunately, I'm not able to do so. I want to first address the presentation of Mr. Steineger. And from a conversation I had with him a little over a year ago, when he told me that he was preparing his property to sell because he was trying to get rid of the BPU, is not leaving Wyandotte County. So shame on him for lying. That's number one. Number two, I want the people to know that in the 1980s, when his family was in office, they tried to sell the BPU to Evergy. It did not happen. The state had to come in. And as a result, thank God, we still have BPU. It was said then, as has been quoted in papers, that that was not the end of BPU. He was going to continue. He's lived up to his promise. But I want to go further into his presentation on his slide, and I don't know if you can put it up, where he has the slide that says BPU. I want to clarify some things for the public so they understand the different verbiage that is used in his slides and that is incorrect. He talks about the BPU being a wholly owned subsidiary of KCK. This is not correct at all. A subsidiary means that they own the UG. I mean, the UG owns the BPU 100%, and they are of a corporate background. This is not true. They do not have complete control over the BPU. A municipal government, which is what the UG is, has a government that
1
is
minute.
owned
remaining.
locally. I'm sorry, it's going to take me a few minutes longer. And talked about that it is owned locally and it is with elected officials that we, the people, elect to serve the public and for the public services. The purpose of these is that we are not for profit. The BPU is not for profit. This wholly owned subsidiary is for profit. The BPU is an agency. It's a utility agency. It is not a wholly owned subsidiary, as Mr. Steineger has put. He says that it's a department of KCK, just as it is Public Works, the Police Department and Finance. This is incorrect. It is not a department of the city like the Public Works Department. The key differences are the Public Works, Police, and Finance are direct extensions of the municipal government and are managed as part of the city's internal government structure. BPU, while it is publicly owned, is more autonomous. It is governed by a separate elected board and operates somewhat independently from the unified government's day-to-day administration. It provides water and electricity services and is responsible for setting rates, managing operations, and making decisions related to utility services. While the BPU is accountable to the public, its governance structure and operations are distinct from typical municipal departments. It has its own budget and oversight, and it focuses solely on utility management rather than being controlled directly by city management. If the UG wants to take responsibility for it being so many hundreds of millions of dollars in debt and wants to consider it as a part of the UG, as they're saying, as a department, why did the UG not even consult BPU when they were figuring the budget? Why? If they're truly interested in trying to make sure that things work smoothly. Because there are other things in play. There is too much corruption. There is too much people in other people's pockets. And we, the people, are not going to accept this any longer. This cannot continue. And I do not believe that Mr. Steineger's efforts, being his history of him and with his family, are in the best interest of the public. I appreciate him trying to help, but let's tell the truth all the way around. Let's tell the truth. And why did the administrator and everyone up there not tell the people the truth when you decided to pull the pilot off and raise our rates at the same time and pass it through the budget? Not only did you raise the stormwater fees and the wastewater fees, did you raise the trash, and then you added $1.07 to people like myself? That is a lot. I am disabled mobility-wise, and I am visually disabled. However, that should not be a play as to why you should have any compassion for your residents. Whether we are disabled or not should not matter. I beg this commission board not to vote on this, to consult with the people. Mr. Steineger has met with many other people, but not the public. Giving us 10 minutes is not enough. This is a disgraceful act. Thank you.
Our next speaker is listed as iPhone 5. You'll need to unmute and identify yourself.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Hall, Kansas City, Kansas resident. First of all, I just want to say thank you, and I hope you can hear me. I'm trying to stay quiet. The game is going on. So very quickly, I've heard several proposals. I've heard a lot of issues since I've been coming up involved. FYI, I'm also home. I translate the meetings from BPU at home for the Hispanic community and Latinos community. So yes, over there, we're not alone. We're working here. Really quick, one of the things that I have been advocating is fiscally responsibility among the organizations within our county and our city. Obviously, we have issues that have been established by culture. This issue of going in the black, going in the red has been happening for years from my understanding. The culture of corruption and lack of accountability has been there. Most of us have voted for all of you to be supported, to be our voice, to listen to our concerns. My question to all of you when you're making these decisions is, have you taken account on your responsibility of accountability and staying ethical? All these issues is because of lack of ethics and the lack of understanding the law. There's a lot of laws being broken here. There is no accountability. We have a lot of crime going on, and due to the home rule, I keep hearing that the state and the attorney general cannot do a thing because we are a home rule county. So in order to hold accountability from the top, because rain doesn't come down from the bottom up, it comes from the top down. We need to, as a community, and all of you that are sitting there, BPU, Unified, all the school boards need to be accountable. We want to get the home rule out. We want to have somebody come in and investigate all this corruption, because your decisions are not just hurting all the people that speak the language or the people that have been here. You're affecting people that are learning how to navigate the culture of this country, and then they come in here and we're feeling robbed. Many of us left a corrupted country to end up in a county, in a city that has corruption. This is not fair. I am asking to one or two to take accountability, take that step, and please do what we voted you for. Be ethical, expect accountability, and take the lead on changing and doing the right thing for the community. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Stephanie B. Please unmute, state your residence.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Barton, and I live in Wyandotte County. The discussion tonight that we've had in the presentation given by Mr. Steineger has revealed a lot of information to the community, such as the UG is doing business as the Board of Public Utilities. It is an administrative arm of the UG. It is essentially a debt collection agency for the Service Corporation. It being a not-for-profit public utility is probably one of the biggest issues that we face in trying to figure out how we remedy these situations that are causing the community harm. It is subject to the American Public Power Association, which is a regional association, and it is not subject to the Kansas Corporation Commission, which is state. Essentially, this is regionalism. The MARC board is shadow governing the UG and has since its consolidation. So when we look into what the American Public Power Association is, it is the voice of the not-for-profit community-owned utilities that powers 49 million people in 2,000 towns and cities nationwide. The association advocates and advises on electric policy, technology, trends, training, and operations. So if we weren't aware that there are other entities at play here, as we continue to have these conversations, we do see where we all need to all the different entities we need to look at. I believe that there is remedy to be found in having both the unified government, BPU, and the community work together. We know it's going to take time. It's been 27 years since we've looked at these issues. I know that earlier in the year, we've also looked at the consolidation issue. And did it do what it said it would do? Unfortunately, from the consolidation study itself, the effective and efficient government, the careful scrutiny of functions and offices by the new government will provide for a more streamlined and cost-effective operation. This will allow for realignment of functions or services to prevent duplication and improve services. Unfortunately, we're seeing as we continue to go through looking at all these different issues that we're facing, we are seeing that there's a lot of work to be done. And I look forward to working with the community, the commission, the boards, and everybody. And I just want to say, let's not give up the hope that we have that we can actually find remedy in these issues that we've been facing. It takes time. And I'm just grateful that we've had this time to be able to have this discussion. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, commissioners and staff this evening.
Our next speaker is Ty Gorman. You'll need to unmute, state your name and residence. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, this is Ty Gorman. I live in Parkwood Boulevard, Northeast KCK. For the last 4 years, I've represented the Sierra Club in Kansas and now in the Southwest Power Pool region, and also serve as the chairperson of the Mayor's Sustainability Task Force. Yeah, I agree with what a lot of folks said today. I want to co-sign what Pamela Penn Hicks said and Louise Lynch, but also getting to work throughout the central region and with utilities in the Southwest Power Pool does lead me to believe that selling a municipal utility to an investor-owned utility is not a way to bring value to our community, is not likely to bring us lower rates or more decision-making and more investment in our community than a local utility would be. That being said, I've spent the last 4 years demanding with my neighbors and community that BPU stop disconnecting people for non-payment in ways that might be dangerous, that BPU have better policies around vulnerable customers, especially medically vulnerable, that we and especially that the UG take the fees off of the BPU bill so people's power and water aren't getting cut off for unrelated services, and that BPU not be charged 11% or 12%, upwards of $30 million for a pilot fee that way out of line with what the national pilot fee should be. The ability for the UG and the BPU to collaborate to bring value to our community is great, and I haven't seen that being done from the UG side. There are a lot of opportunities to combine the reach and the services the BPU provides with energy efficiency dollars coming from outside the community, bring federal and regional state money into this community. There's been a disappointing lack of collaboration between UG investments and decision makers and BPU decision makers. I think this BPU elected board has so far made some beneficial changes for the community and has a good chance of bringing more value to this community through their 20-year planning process that's happening now and continuing for upcoming months, and opportunity to work with the state to bring 100 million plus efficiency dollars, a big chunk of that into this community to invest in our homes, reduce our prices for the most vulnerable, lowest income customers. So there might be cost efficiencies as were described here tonight that could be found within that context between the UG and the BPU. But the UG really needs to take the lead and make the changes here to work collaboratively with the BPU and bring all the value that could be possible through the clean energy transition and the money associated with that across the country into this community. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker is Latanya Goodlow. To unmute, state your name and residence for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, Dr. Goodlow, Kansas City, Kansas. And thank you for the time. And thank you, Mayor. Thank you, commissioners, for the work that you all are doing. And thank you to the community that is voicing their opinions and things they have to say. I want to say, first of all, don't have a lot to say. Again, I'm not claiming to be privy and know what the solutions are, but I would say that while we're trying to figure out the solutions internally, the customer service is horrible for BPU, absolutely horrible on all levels. Every encounter with BPU that I have, that my children have, both of my children have moved here to Wyandotte County. It is just like climbing a mountain, trying to figure things out. I really don't understand what's the problem with the customer service. So I want to just note that is something that I've been ranting and raving about. But I also wanted to ditto what a few people had said before to the commissioners. We voted you in. We helped you. You wanted us to listen to you when you were running for your offices and vote us in and passing out flyers and all that. But it seems once that the commissioners get in office, it's a private clique. You guys are meeting all the time. You're meeting. Why don't you take your meetings to the street? I don't think that anybody in the meetings has the answers. I know you guys are overwhelmed, overworked and everything, and I salute the work you're doing, but you have community around you that has answers, that have ideas, that can give solutions, and you guys are just clicked up in your meetings talking to each other with no solutions. The meetings, it's like a trick up. You know, every time I turn around, there's another meeting here, there's another meeting there. We can't make it to all the meetings. Come to us in our communities. If you guys care, if you want to change this, I'm in District 8. I think you're Andrew. He is our commissioner. You know, you have meetings, that's great with food and different things, but I don't see you coming to ask us how we feel about the pilot, how we feel about what's going on in BPU. This is what we're expecting. Get boots on the ground, just like you guys were when you were running for office, and start talking to the communities that you're in. And then when you go to your meetings, you'll have stronger, you'll know what your actual community that elected you
Minute remaining.
wants you to do and say, because you're an elected officer. It's not what you want to do, it's what we want you to do again. So I need to echo that. But reach out to us. Stop standing alone. Stop acting like you guys are carrying this alone. You're not. And so, you know, bring it to the community. Get out here. Come talk to us. Thank you.
Mayor, there are no other hands raised online.
All right, thank you. I'll entertain questions from commissioners. Commissioner King.
And it's perception sometimes. First of all, I want to, Mary Gonzalez, the BPU board members in the audience with us tonight, thank you for coming. You know, Mayor, and this is perception and this is my opinion. When you put this out on the internet that Steiner was going to give the presentation, I got more calls about what's going on because Steineger tried to sell the BPU when he was working as a senator. You know, so this guy has already made up his mind which way this should go. I also want to remind you that I think we have outstanding employees, both at BPU and the unified government as well. And you have to realize that some of the jobs at BPU, the linemen are up in the buckets when it's lightning. The other people deal with chemicals every single day. These things are scary. Then several years ago, the Nearman plant had to be redone because there was a fine put in place, which I think it took 5 years to fix it. And then you have to remember after, and that was I can't remember how many millions of dollars that was. But then you have to remember that the regular cost of living. So there's a combination of things that have caused where we're at. And, you know, you have to think about it. You know, when we're doing this, none of us commissioners were involved with this prior to. I would have thought that the commissioners and the board members would have had a separate meeting offsite and said, here, we have a plan, or do we have a plan? And back in, I think it was February 28th of 2008, we hired a special master. None of you folks were here. Mary was here. And we had George Turner come in and talk about the things that needed to be changes. So I think, this is me, you know, one, I don't want to consolidate. I do want to, if there's things we can merge together, then let's do it. But what we really need to do is hire an outside person to come in, like the special master was, which was George Wages. And, you know, he talked to us in February 28th, or he started studying in February 28th, and he gave us the results February 5th of 2009. We need to hire somebody like that so it takes the political part out. We have somebody tell us, here's your shortcomings, here's where you could merge, here's where you could do this, here's where you could do that, and take all of us out of it. So the only thing we have to do is, and it needs to be somebody that we don't know, none of us. So we can have somebody stand there and say, all right, BPU and unified government, here's where you failed, here's where you excel. And I'll bet you'd be surprised, we've excelled more in a lot of places than what people think. But this is a struggle, and it bothers me that, Mayor, that this was put out, and here Steineger comes up, and not one person here knew what was going on. And I want to know what's going on, because I got multiple phone calls from people saying, what the hell is going on? And I hadn't seen it on Facebook. And I'm like, I don't know. What are you talking about? So Mayor, I respectfully request that all the commissioners be involved, that all of the board members from BPU be involved, the staff that's required from both sides, hire an outside person to help us improve. That's my comment.
Okay, any other commissioners? Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. I certainly appreciate hearing the comments from our constituents on this evening. Very tough to hear, but I would like to say that the things that have been highlighted, many of them, I definitely agree with. One thing in particular, I heard one constituent say, Reverend Hill, she said, if you don't know what to do, pray about it and ask the Lord. So we've been praying and so maybe, well, I can say I've been praying. I can't speak for anybody else, but what I can say is that this could be a great opportunity for us to dig in deep and figure out what we can do to help our constituents here. And when I say our constituents, that includes me. And that includes you. We all are paying the BPU bills. And so it's not an easy thing. I keep looking for the answer. And thank you, Commissioner Kane, for that suggestion, because at least it gets us to where we're talking about it. It's not just a matter of BPU telling us what they do and then UG telling us what they do. Our constituents hear this. Well, it's a UG problem. Then they go to UG. Nope, it's a BPU problem. And it's like nobody helps the people. And I've heard several say that where is the customer service at BPU? Well, great, you can call on the phone, but what if you need to sit down with somebody and go over it and get an understanding? How is that being done? So there's some things I think we really could do. I was appreciative coming in before being a commissioner, talking with Commissioner Bynum and Rose Henry. They did try to talk to me and included me in the community process of trying to lower the pilot. And I told them then, and I continue to say now, that's great. We got it down to 1 or 2%, but wow, we still need to do a whole lot more. So I would like to see us get to a point where we do more than just have meetings and talk about it, but actually come up with some real solutions that the community can see that we are really working towards solutions. From the meetings I have had and seen when it came to BPU, there was absolutely no budging, well, maybe we can work together, nothing. This is what we do. This is what we provide. And oh, by the way, we also do this, we provide that, but nothing has been said that I could figure out or hear where they're willing to do something different to help our community. I never heard anything else in that arena. So I'm excited about the opportunity to work together with BPU to do something different, not just to hear what they've already done, and not just to hear what we have done, but what can we do different together that is solution-based that we can help our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. I thank you, all of you, for coming out tonight. I think one of the things that I'm reminded of, particularly with this process and how we've governed so far, is we have to be realistic, right? So if you all remember coming out saying, go revenue neutral, go revenue neutral, go revenue neutral, And the response was, okay, we went revenue neutral. And then now there are key services, there are key programs, there are key functions that we have had to reduce, all while you've not been able to realize the substantial reduction in your property taxes. I bring that up as an example to say, whatever we do, I hope that we have clear objectives, goals, that they are realistic, so that we do not get your hopes up only for you to be disappointed in your government again. I've stood up to countless neighborhood groups telling them we can cut taxes, we can, but it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. And that is not being mean, that is not being political, that is just being purely honest. That everything from an expense side, there's revenue coming from somewhere that has to fund it or not. And so I think for, we've had the BPU come in, we've had BPU member Stevie Wakes come in, give his presentation. We had General Manager Johnson come in. We've had a lot of just conversation. Where I think this has kind of went south is we've
I'm
just
sorry.
had a conversation without us having clear goals, a clear timeline, clear expectations, a clear way for the community to engage and say, realistically, here are the options that are before us. No one wants to come up here and just complain and let everything out, and then you go home and nothing changes, right? No one wants to do that. But I also don't want to give you this false hope, because that's what revenue neutral was. Your property tax bill, that is revenue neutral. That's what you fought for. And so I think we have to be very honest, very transparent, and very realistic. I would rather tell you what the realistic options are than get your hopes up and then let you down. I made that promise when I ran. I stick by that promise now. I do know that colleagues, both, well, at the time, Citizen Dr. Hill and Commissioner Bynum had worked on a committee with those a joint committee with a BPU member, Rose Mulvaney, and we had both staff. I think if we were to resurrect that, and there had been some conversations on resurrecting that, let's do it. But at some point, we got to do something. Getting on Facebook, complaining, listen, no one has time for it if we don't have real solutions and realistic goals. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Kane on what you said, with their BPU workers are great. They are great. They're hard workers. They're very hard workers. They're very skilled workers. That's not the issue. The issue is the management, misuse of management. I've seen it firsthand. I was electrical lineman for Par Electric. All my lineman buddies I work with out of town in Alaska, all over, they're linemen for BPU. And to hear management say that they've hired, more staff, more linemen, whatnot, it's not true. I called my buddies that work there. I'm like, dude, do you guys do any, and you guys hire more linemen? He's like, no. What are you talking about? What smells to me is they're, as owner of a company, if you back up, back off on some of your employees, that brings the money down. It's bigger bonuses. That's where that goes. So we need to take a hard look on the management. There's so much that just, that's what we need to look at. That's the main. It's like, do we need management reconstruction? Because it's not working. And it's killing us. I mean, hey, I'm taking the hit just like everybody here. I'm taking the hit too. And I feel it. And I have a BPU bill at my ranch. I have a BPU bill at my shop, and I got a BPU bill at my house. And it's not easy. It's not easy at all. And again, we need to take a hard look at management reconstruction. Thank you.
Any other? Okay, I think, I just want to say thank you to all the residents that came out and, thank you to Mr. Steineger for his presentation. The whole point in this, was to start this conversation. So let me back up. And I just want to talk frank. When I ran, the two biggest things, complaints I had were property taxes and BPU, and it didn't matter where I went, all socioeconomic ladders, wasn't divided by race. That was a unifying comment. If we put you in this office as our mayor, please bring forward a conversation about how to responsibly address those concerns of property taxes, unnecessary user fees, BPU, the fees there as well. I believe that progress has been made. I've done everything I can to give this community a voice without being judgmental of anybody in this community. I respect all the voices that were there. But I can tell you, some of those voices have shared with me serious concerns, not just with this unified government, but the BPU that we own. Let's back up. During COVID, there were comments made to me by some residents that said that they were appalled at some of the outrageous and outlandish pay raises that were given while other people were suffering during COVID. I don't know how true that is, but those were comments that were made to me. The rate increases, the benefits packages, but then you raise fees. Then you look at some of the user fees, the connection fees, how some of my small business owners I've talked to talk about the outrageous connection fees that really hurt entrepreneurs and small businesses, especially when you talk about women and minority businesses that are really don't have the access to capital to really get ahead. These are the types of conversations we need to be had. It's about how do we provide better government, and if we can provide a more efficient, streamlined, efficient government, to find those cost savings that can be translated to our residents. You've heard me say it. We are still one of the poorest counties in the great state of Kansas. I'm concerned about our working poor, our seniors on fixed income, and those that are just struggling to get by, but not just them. Because some people can afford it and they say, you know what, I don't want to afford it and I'm going to move out. That bothers me when there's reports out there that we've lost 3,500 residents, and I go out and I'm starting to hear that more and more. If you don't, this unified government doesn't get a handle on taxes and fees and BPU, I'm going to look elsewhere where it's cheaper for me to live and have more amenities for me and my family. As the mayor of this town, that bothers me because I don't want that. I want people anchored right here in this community to grow our tax base. And you've heard me say it before, not just to look at who we are, but who we should be. I agree with Commissioner Kane. We have outstanding employees here in both the unified government and BPU. I don't think Mr. Steineger or myself has ever denied that. I was one of those employees. I believe we got Commissioner Stites. He was one of those employees as well. We worked here. We know what it feels like, and we know what it means to be a public servant. But I also agree with Commissioner Lopez. Sometimes it's not the people in the trenches doing the work that don't have a dog in the fight or can't make a decision because they're just given their marching orders and they just got to carry them out. Sometimes it's the leadership and management that really we have to look at and say, how can we work better on behalf of making sure that the things that we're doing reflect the values of our great community and that our people are being heard and that we have a connection with the people and we put the people first. I always say community driven. And I believe to get there, you have to have strong collaborations. That's always worked for me in my background. Collaborations are key. I did want to hear from BPU, which we heard from several times, as has been mentioned before. I wanted to hear from the community about some of the concerns they had. And thank you all for showing up, because I know it was a Chiefs game tonight, and I know some folks were tailgating. But thank you all for foregoing that and showing up and having the courage to speak up tonight. The end game is to get back with the Board of Utilities, Public Utilities, have a joint meeting, and do exactly what Commissioner Hill said. Find real solutions to real problems that affect the real lives of real people every single day, and you've heard me say that. For those of you that don't think we can do better, I challenge you to rethink that. One of the things I learned in my management careers, and it bothered me when I hear that, well, we've always done it this way. That's the first problem. And I don't like being told this is how we do business, because even when our policies and our chart, they should always be evolving. I can tell you if our Constitution wasn't evolving, of our country, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today as your mayor, truthfully. So we always have to look at how can we improve our service to our residents, because that's what they voted us to do. And that's the end game. The next meeting that I'd like to have with our commissioners, because I know you're saying, where were we going with this? Was to start this conversation, and, you know, irrespective of how anybody may feel about Mr. Steineger, he didn't advocate one time to sell BPU. Nor was he going to advocate to sell BPU, because I said that's not something that I would support. And I know that's something majority of the people in this community would not support. But what he was willing to do is to jumpstart the conversation that has been long overdue, is necessary, when you hear the resounding complaints from residents that we want our government to do better for us. We want to see BPU, and not just BPU, but this unified government and what we do as being a benefit, some level of benefit to our residents, and not the perception of being burdened. And so I think we can find those solutions. I think we can find ways to work together with our board to get something there, something tangible, and not just talking about it, but if we're really committed to our residents and why we were here, said we wanted to be here in the first place, but really being about getting something done for the great people that love and call this community home. That's my call to action, not just to this commission, not just to the BPU board. I am the chief elected official in this town, so I challenge all our elected officials to come together and let's work together and find those solutions and find ways we can cut costs. If that's consolidating departments, fine. Let's work through that. If it's gonna be of value and benefit to our residents, if we can improve customer service, and I'm not here to throw stones at BPU, but even in the UG, let's do that. There's a lot of improvement that can go around. This isn't about, oh, I'm gonna point the finger at you. It's just, how can we get better? That's what it should always be about. This isn't about criticizing, but my thing is sometimes people mix up, I don't mind being criticized because that helps me get better, number one. If I don't have that criticism, especially from people that don't care about me, you know, how could I have a different perspective on how I need to govern myself and move and improve how I do business? I don't want to hear all those things about, oh, Mayor, you're great, you're wonderful, we love you, we like what you do. No, I want to hear, Mayor, you need to improve in this area. I'm not happy with this. We need you to be a leader and lead this county and this community and this body in this direction. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's how we get better. And there's always room for improvement. And so I want to find those problems. You've heard me say before, let's find them, face it, and then fix it. And I've advocated from day one, and I agree with Commissioner Kane, we need an outside, unaffiliated, independent auditor. We had that for the unified government in 2022, was a soft audit. Their recommendation is that we really need to do a deeper dive. But it outlined a lot of areas for improvement in this unified government that we're still working on. Our goal is to work to get better in our service to you. I think BPU needs to have that, especially as BPU gets ready to transition, as we know, into a change of leadership. Now is that time, after 27 years, that we take a hard look at BPU. We are the parent company of BPU. Ultimately, we have the control over BPU, and there are options for this commission to take in collaboration with BPU. And my thing is all options short of selling BPU should be on the table if it's going to be of value and of cost saving to our residents here in Kansas City, Kansas. And that's what this is all about. So I'm willing to get to work. Hopefully the BPU board, and I know that they are, the ones that I've talked to, they're willing to get to work. And so community, I ask that you work with us, encourage us, give us your recommendations as we work to find ways to better serve you and find the cost savings that you've heard me say before. You not only have been demanding, but I know that so many of you deserve from these entities, because some of the fees incorporated and that have been put in place are very burdensome to a lot of our residents. And those are the people that I care about. I always put the people above politics, power, and privilege, and I will continue to do so. I'm not here for me. I don't care. I'm not here for political longevity. I'm not going to be mayor forever. You've heard me say that. I have no desire to be. But what I do want to do and why I am here is to hopefully do something working collaboratively with those that are willing to work with me and willing to work with this community to make life just a little bit better for our residents. And our residents don't expect us to solve all their problems. Over my 3 years that I've been mayor, what they've been telling us is they want us to change direction so we can do a service to them that is just a little bit better. And they know we can do better. I believe we can do better. And I believe there's a lot of solutions that can be found. And so we'll set up that next meeting and we'll have further discussions about options in regards to this topic of benefit or burden. And if it's not a burden, I want that perception to be dispelled because I know BPU is truly an asset to this community. And I want it to be seen as that asset to this community. So thank you so much again for your time. Thank you, commissioners, for your comments. We will now move into the next portion of our presentation. And I ask in the interest of time that if our next presenters can just, if you can take that down to about 5 minutes per presentation, that would be great. And so the first one is Christmas in October. They're still here.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Doug Welch, Executive Director of Christmas in October. For those of you not familiar with our program, we're a nonprofit that fixes up houses for the elderly, disabled, and veterans at no cost to them. Next, please. Quick history about Christmas in October. We were founded 41 years ago, and we're still in business, just is an attribute to the generosity and the volunteerism of the Midwest people here. And even though we fix up thousands of houses, we also have a huge economic impact to the community thanks to all our volunteers. Next, please. For this year, Saturday, October 5th is our big event day, and we're going to be working on 50 houses in Kansas City, Kansas, the 66104 and 102 zip codes. 20 of them will be done by Black and Veatch. 20 of them will be done by Burns and McDonnell. Right now, Rosedale Development and partnering with KU Med, I know they're doing at least 5 and they're aiming for 10. And then also supporting us and doing a house is the mayor's office, the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, and the Public Works Department. And I want to underscore their involvement. Back, please. That's all right. Over on the east side of the State Line Road, a couple of years ago, there was a drive-by shooting on our event day, and we lost one of our large corporate sponsors. So this is why partnering with the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department is so important to us, keep our volunteers safe and the perception of safety. So again, I can't underscore our gratitude for those two departments for helping us out. And then also Public Works, again, on the east side of State Line, we have to purchase dumpsters and we have to get permits for them and we have to pay for the permits. And so here Public Works is going to pick up all our trash for us on event day. So that is huge. That's one less headache for me on event day, but also it's a huge cost that I don't have to incur. That cost, waiving that cost by the Public Works Department is going to allow me to fund an additional 20 houses at least. So again, thank you very much for Public Works and for the sheriffs and the police department. Okay, next, please. Again, as I said, who we help, it's the elderly, disabled, and veterans, and they must own their own home. And the reason for that is If we went and worked on a rental property, then the landlord would just raise the people's rent. So we're doing a disservice on those. Okay, next. Again, we're a nonprofit organization. 99% of the work we do is from our volunteers. On event day, we'll have anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 or more volunteers. We basically supply the a database to all those volunteers, and they get to choose their own homes. So really, we're just kind of a matchmaker. Our funding comes primarily, about 2/3 of our funding is from corporate donors. Those are all corporations based here in Kansas City. Then we also get about 1/3 from charitable and family foundations, and we also receive a few dollars from individuals as well. Next, please. This is our timeline on how we operate. We start collecting applications from people, and then we conduct pre-inspections of those houses. Reason for the inspections is the homeowner may tell us their toilet doesn't work. Well, that can be anything from a $5 flapper in the tank to a $10,000 repair of the sewer line. So that's why we do our own inspections. And then we have a roofing program, and this year we completed, we fixed, patched roofs on about 52 houses this year. And then in August and September, our volunteer groups will select the houses to work on. And then October 5th is our event day. Next, please. Basically, our repairs and maintenance fall into about 5 categories. It's painting and scraping on the exterior, yard work, carpentry. I'll talk about that one on the next slide. Minor electrical, such as installing ceiling lights, fixing outlets, fixing light switches, and then minor plumbing as well. Toilet repair, kitchen faucets, fixing the drains under kitchen sinks. Next. These are just some of our typical volunteer tasks. It's not an extreme home makeover like the TV show, but for some of our homeowners, it is an extreme makeover, especially if they don't have a working toilet in a 1-bathroom house, or if they don't have a kitchen sink that works, or if they don't have a stove that works. So it is extreme makeover for the homeowners. Repairs range from simple, such as installing handrails and grab bars for the people's safety, to some of our engineering groups do huge repairs, like rebuilding the entire side of a house that's rotted from water. Next. This slide should really be titled "Why Our Volunteers Do It." And they do it for team building for their company. They also develop leaders out of the program. It's a chance to give back to the community. And it's a little bit different from community pride. Community pride is instilled in all the people who work on the houses, as well as the people who benefit, especially with all the exterior work we do, trying to prop up the community. And with that, I'm done. And again, I just want to underscore our appreciation for the county and city for providing the police, sheriffs, and the public works department. So thank you very, very much. Any questions, you can reach me at those addresses.
Thank you. Don't leave. Got a question. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Welch. A couple of questions about qualifying the scope of the work. I see where, so for the year 2025, applications would be taken, when was that, January through March?
Yeah, we'll actually take applications even longer than that, but the sooner you get it in, the better.
Okay. And, okay, got an address in here. The address shown in the handout is where applications
There's a
should be
PO
forwarded
box
to?
on the application. The PO box will say where to send it to, but you can also send it to our warehouse.
Okay, so how do you get the application? Maybe that's what I should ask.
Just call the number on the slide and ask, and Bob will answer the phone and he'll send them one.
Okay,
Or you can also go online and get it as well.
okay. Do you do any guttering work, roof work?
Yes, we do a lot of gutters. In fact, we have our own gutter machine at the warehouse.
And for the applications that are submitted, you make your final determination, I guess, based on what you find in the home inspection, and tell me what's involved in that as to how do you decide who?
Again, the criteria is the elderly, disabled, veterans. And then we really don't exclude or include anyone. We put all that information out there and it's up to the groups to choose. So let's say a group finds a house that they want to go work on, but it's got a plumbing issue and they may not have a plumber on their team. They'll go to the next house. Or conversely, there may be a team that wants to do plumbing and electrical work. If they find a house that doesn't have any of that, they'll go to the next house. So again, it's the volunteer group matching their skill sets with what the house or homeowner needs.
Do you have situations where people apply and are not selected because maybe what they have that would qualify in terms of work, none of your team select them, if that makes sense? And if so, what happens to that application, that home?
Again, we always leave the applications out there for other groups, and sometimes we carry over the applications to next year.
Okay.
So
That's-
this year, we're running about 225, 250 applications we received,
Mhm.
and we'll hopefully do about 100 of those houses.
Okay.
So I tell people sometimes it's kind of luck of the draw, but again, we're a matchmaker. We're matching up the skills of our volunteers with what the homeowner needs.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burrows.
No questions. I just want to say thank you for your interest in our community. We have a population that is in high need, as you are well aware, and 100 homes is a nice target. And I know this isn't the first year. I look back to when I was a young man and lived with my grandmother, and had we had this opportunity when I was a young man, we might quite possibly have been able to stay in our home and not moved into public housing. So I sincerely appreciate your program and want to thank you and all the volunteers for their interest in our community and taking care of a population that is reflected in your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. And the score is 7-13 Chiefs, just in case. No, but thank you so much. A quick question. Have you all had any discussions with our community development department at all? It's okay if not.
No, I haven't, but I think Elaine Moore talks with them. She used to be on community policing.
Mhm.
And so we've talked about before codes people write up people, maybe they can give us the information first. We can go see if we can mitigate the problem before it gets to codes. Before somebody's written up.
That's what I was going to say, because for our community development office, they do this work kind of on a, little bit grander scale, give or take. And, we just went revenue neutral, so we actually removed the minor home repair program. And so I would encourage you all to reach out to them. I see one of our assistant county administrators, Alan House, back there, who can get you connected. But I think, the work that y'all are doing, what community development's doing, what the NRC does, right, with code violations. I know for a fact there was a backlog of folks that didn't, weren't able to get the assistance that they need. So to put you all kind of within that framework and you all catching some of those folks that are in need would be of great resource to us. So thank you for your work.
Yeah, if you can send me an email with the contact, or I'll email you and you can hook us up, that'd be great.
Yeah, somebody will reach out to you before.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry. We got Commissioner Lopez.
Yes, sir. I just want to say, this is really cool. I have your information. You're going to be hearing from me. I have a tree service, but I also have a lot of big equipment that, if you need me, I've got a crane, I have bucket trucks, I have big stuff. So if there's anything, like, gutters, we can blow through there it'd probably take me longer to drive there to get it done.
We appreciate that. Also, can you use your electrical skills?
Yeah, no
Okay.
problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you so much. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for the work you do in Wyandotte County. Thank
Our
you.
pleasure.
Thank you. That takes us to a presentation from Hope Builders.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen. We're here, we work alongside Christmas in October. We've been working up in Wyandotte County for a number of years as well. So partly it's just to make sure that you understand part of the things we've been trying to do as well, working in your community. We'll just try to skip through a few slides. Next vision. So you have information about Hope Builders. We've served over 1,000 clients, and since our inception in 2000, a number of those have been in Wyandotte County. So we actually work slightly different than Christmas in October, because we do a lot of work with volunteers, but we have funding also that allows us to use subcontractors, and we have staff that do some of the work as well. So we have a mixture of solutions for clients that we try to address as we can. Next. Did a first project in 2000. Next. Our focus is older adults and people living with disabilities. And it takes a lot of forms. And sometimes it's a family member with a disability, not the homeowner themselves. Next. Vision. Next. Our programs encompass two main areas: accessibility and home repairs. Sometimes they overlap, sometimes they're independent. Most of our clients that are older are not able to either financially or physically take care of their homes. So that's where we end up doing home repair things. Next. This is just a few examples of things we've done. Some of these are in Wyandotte County. Some of them are scattered in the other metro parts, other parts of the metro. Next. 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 Home repairs. If you own a home, you know that it can be a plethora of different opportunities in those homes. And if you take away the ability to maintain that home for 20 years or so, it gets to be a pretty challenging situation. I've always been amazed at how some of our clients are survivors in situations that are very challenging. Next. 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 We don't do as much on the roof repair. When the client qualifies for some of our major grant funding, we try to install new roofs. And we do a dozen or so roofs a year around the metro area. It obviously is not a cheap proposition, but we believe that if we can put a new roof on a house, that'll help extend the life of that asset for the family, and the affordable housing areas that also helps that. Next. 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 Our process is slightly different. We have an intake system as well. We try to do our income qualification up front. We do an initial client visit on all of our clients, and then we develop a project strategy based on trying to figure out if we can help them. And all this is presupposed on qualifications, which is home ownership, being a lower income individual, and meeting our age requirement. You'll see in some demographics shortly that that's not difficult. Schedule the work and do work. Our backlog is usually 3 to 6 months for ramps, which is one of the primary areas that we do a lot of benefits. Home repairs end up taking longer just because they're usually more complicated. Next. Here's our eligibility. Very similar to Christmas in October and some of our other partners or peers in the area. We work the metro area, so we're both on Jackson County and Wyandotte and northern Johnson County predominantly. And we spend about a quarter of our time here in Wyandotte County. Next. This gives you kind of a graphical illustration of what we've done last year. 157 clients. We did 354 projects. 25% of them were in Wyandotte County. Next. This is some of the demographics. As you can see, most of it, there's a large preponderance in Jackson. Wyandotte is not insignificant at 25%. Almost all, very heavily weighted to older adults and lower income. So next. So for Wyandotte County, this gives you an illustration of what we did in Wyandotte County itself. And there's a listing of actually the number of projects. In 2023, we started working with Livable Neighborhood with some of the funding they had, which was a good relationship. That was actually accelerated this year, I think until recently when some of their funding got removed or adjusted. Next slide. So for 24 year to date, we're expecting to serve 120 clients with over 400 projects. And frankly, we'll probably be, this is just year to date. So we're actually estimating to serve 220 clients for the year. So we've been trying to work on building our capacity and doing that. So this is the Kansas City area. And next slide, this is Wyandotte. And so just this year, we've done this projects, and we've done 16 projects for eight clients with livable neighborhood this year. So it's been a good relationship. We have been working with community development. We've partnered on a couple different projects, and there's several more under discussion. Just figuring out how we can work together to be most beneficial to the client. So next. Active clients right now on our list, we have 44 clients at various stages of their status. So we're continuing to try to work through that. We generally get, 10, 20 clients a month overall, but a number of those will be up here in Wyandotte County as well. Next slide. So in terms of our work, we can continue doing what we have. We understand that there's a very strong interest in affordable housing and trying to support that, but funding is also limited on your side. We are going to continue doing what we're doing with our grant funders that we have for the clients that qualify for that funding. To the extent Livable Neighborhood has funding, we will work with them. Theirs has been a little less restrictive, so it helps us serve people that we may not be able to serve otherwise. And then we continue collaborating because we think that is a part of the answer as well. Christmas in October has been one of our partners for a number of years. We also are part of a local coalition of home repair groups, of which the community housing in Wyandotte County is part of as well. If there was additional UG funding, we'd be certainly glad to be able to put that to work for the community itself. I think that's, what's that? No. Questions?
Okay. Thank you so much, Madam President. Commissioner Bynum has a question.
Thank you, Mayor. It's not a question. It's a thank you to both the gentlemen and the organizations. I think I've been in communication with you recently about a possible MOU. I'm the executive director of the Shepherd Center of Kansas City, Kansas during my full-time work. And we offer programs and services for older adults here in Wyandotte County, one of which is minor home repair.
Right.
So everything you've both posted on one of your slides, we've done over and over and over again. The need in our community can feel quite daunting. And so I'm appreciative of the helping hands that you bring to the community. Year to date, my organization, which is very small, has done more than 230 of these minor home repairs for older adult homeowners in Wyandotte County. We are very familiar with the request for perhaps a toilet issue, and when we arrive for the assessment, it's a rotted floorboard because the leak has been occurring for so long that the walls have to be torn out. All of the plumbing has to be torn into. The floor is almost gone. We encounter that often. So I'm really fully aware of the work that you do here in the community, and I just can't say thank you enough. I know in the past we've partnered on a number of occasions with Christmas in October, but it's been a number of years, and I do look forward to, possibly developing a stronger relationship among you. We've been providing these services here for more than 30 years. So we're quite proud of the work that we accomplish here in the community as well. It'll be really exciting to, potentially join forces. I thank you both again very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Mr. Wayne, a couple of questions. Does your organization have a particular period of the year where you accept applications? Is Christmas in July had an application period? Does yours have an application period, or you take them all year long?
We work year round. In fact, we do even some of the outdoor work year round as well, which is not as bad as it used to be because it's been getting warmer thanks to global climate warming. But yes, we work year round.
Okay. And what would be the way that someone could apply for help through your organization? Is there?
The website is one way. They can also call our main office number, which I may or may not have included on the slide. But we can provide you that information.
Okay, I'd appreciate that because I have several people in mind who could use services offered by both of your
Absolutely.
organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Lopez.
Yes, sir. On your intake client eligibility, how in depth do you pick, like picking like, okay, we're gonna take care of you. I'm trying to think the word here. Like how in depth do you look into, like, are they legit?
We basically have each client requesting help submit their intake or their income documentation so we can compare the income levels. We do a separate deed check to make sure that they're the owners. Some of our funders have pretty strict requirements, so we have to make sure that we've vetted that from that perspective. Part of the intake process is the visit that we have to assess whether it's a house that we can help. Unfortunately, some houses have gone so long with deferred maintenance that they're beyond what we can do. And so we just have to say, we're sorry. We try to help wherever we can, but there are situations that are just beyond what we can do. So.
On issues like that, is there another outfit or an organization or a funder or something that you can refer them to, say, hey, that are on special organizations that, okay, we just are going to focus on issues that are beyond, like?
I would say probably not. We do a lot. I know community housing in Wyandotte County has been doing some major work as well under a similar funder, but it really is a function of what they're willing to take on. And some houses, as you might recognize, are old and then they had deferred maintenance, so things have gotten pretty bad in a lot of situations.
So you're talking about like really bad, not just wood rot, but termites and whatnot. I mean, have you been like, okay, well, I don't want to break the news too hard, but your house probably needs to be wrecked out?
There's been a few, when the roof has been bad for a while and there's holes in the roof and the floors and everything else, it gets to a point where you end up having to rebuild the house, and that's not something we do. So.
Right. No, I get that, but, okay, cool beans. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the service of both organizations that you provide to our residents here in Wyandotte County. It's greatly appreciated. So thank you. And thank you for your presentation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. I did want, and I know that my Chief of Staff, Irene Cadillo, she really wanted to make sure that these organizations that we've met and have spoken to, that our residents and this commission and staff knew that these are one of several organizations that are operating in Wyandotte County. We've met several of them, and these are two of the more prominent ones that kind of stood out to us. And so I think there's a lot of room, like Commissioner Bynum talked about, for collaboration to really hone in the resources, especially in these times where we're financially challenged, to make sure that those services are available to the residents that need them the most. So again, it is so much appreciated. So that takes us to the next item on our agenda, which is the regular consent agenda. If any members of the commission, county administrator wishes to set aside any item on the regular consent agenda. If an item is not set aside, all items on the regular consent agenda will be voted on by one vote.
Kane, move for approval.
Well, second. All right, I will accept that motion and I accept that second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk roll call.
Roll call Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, we have no further business tonight. Thank you all for your time. And Again, for those of you that came forward and spent your evening with us and those that were online that spoke as well, your comments are valued. I'm going to entertain a motion for our adjournment.
I'll move.
It's a motion.
David, second.
There's a second. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call, Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kane. Lopez.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Have a great evening.